The world has long been fascinated by the possibilities that lie beyond the reaches of our own galaxy. Every time a new piece of data is transmitted back from space, it challenges not only what we know, but how we know it. When Voyager 2 was launched in 1977, it was tasked with a simple yet monumental mission: explore the outer planets of our solar system and continue out into interstellar space, transmitting back whatever it could. For years, it faithfully performed this role. But in recent months, something unexpected occurred, something that has set the scientific community abuzz with speculation, debate, and more than a hint of unease. Voyager 2 began transmitting data that didn't align with any known cosmic phenomena or mechanical error. It was as if the probe had stumbled upon something different. Initially, the strange signals were dismissed. After all, Voyager 2 is now operating at a distance of more than 12 billion miles from Earth. At such an enormous range, anomalies in data transmission are not uncommon. But these signals weren't noise. They had structure, rhythm, and content. The first hint came in the form of a pattern, a repeating waveform that looked uncannily like a code. Not one crafted by humans, but one that seemed to echo the fundamental architecture of mathematics itself. At first, engineers assumed it was a system glitch, possibly caused by radiation interfering with the probe's aging circuits. However, after thorough diagnostics and simulations, they were forced to rule out technical failure. The data was real. And it was coming from somewhere out there. As more scientists began reviewing the raw data, often unofficially, and sometimes from within anonymized online communities, one theory began to gain traction. They called it the mirror theory. According to this idea, the structured signal Voyager 2 received was not a message, not even a reply, but a reflection, a passive automated response generated by a system built to echo the identity of whatever touches it. This system, some speculated, might be an ancient alien technology, possibly even predating our sun. Its purpose? Unknown. Its nature? Elusive. But its behavior suggested that it didn't initiate communication. It simply responded. The mirror theory captivated a growing number of physicists and astronomers. If true, it would mean that Voyager 2 had encountered not an alien being or civilization, but an alien mechanism. Perhaps something akin to a beacon or a relay station, a machine designed to exist in the vast, quiet spaces between stars, waiting for probes like ours to pass by. It would mirror back whatever it encountered, allowing other entities, perhaps across unimaginable distances or even dimensions, to learn about us indirectly. Think of it as a cosmic fingerprinting device, silently gathering and rebroadcasting impressions. The implications of this theory were profound. If Voyager 2 had found such a system, then it meant we were not alone, not just in the biological sense, but in the technological history of the universe. Someone had been here before. Someone had built something that could still function eons later. And someone, or something, might be watching. Yet, amid the speculation, a darker question began to surface. What if the mirror wasn't reflecting us to others? What if it was reflecting something else back to us? The next transmission changed everything. Within the repeating patterns of the signal, cryptographers noticed a shift, subtle but undeniable. The mirror, it seemed, had begun to include something new. It was no longer just echoing Voyager's mechanical signature or Earth's original data stream. Embedded in the signal were elements that didn't originate from us. Frequencies not emitted by Voyager. Time intervals inconsistent with its internal clock. It was as though the mirror had not just reflected but learned. And now, it was replying. The content of the reply was undecipherable, at least at first. But as days passed and more data was analyzed, a picture began to emerge. The signal contained analogues to mathematical constants, representations of physical laws, but not our physical laws. There were inconsistencies, alternate values, even distortions of constants like pi and the speed of light. It was as if the signal represented not a message from our universe, but from a different one altogether. One with its own rules. One parallel to ours, but alien in its fundamentals. This sparked another theory, one even more radical than the mirror theory. Some proposed that Voyager 2 had crossed into a region of space where the boundaries between universes are thin. A kind of membrane, perhaps, where realities brush against each other. In such a place, the familiar laws of physics might break down. Information from one universe could bleed into another. Could Voyager 2 have sent a ping into this strange domain, and received not a reflection, but an echo from a neighboring reality? Skeptics were quick to push back. The idea of alternate universes is controversial even among theoretical physicists. Most dismissed it as speculation layered on coincidence. But what they couldn't ignore was the increasing strangeness of the transmissions. Patterns began to emerge that bore resemblance to languages, not any earthly language, but something with internal logic, structure, and evolution. Linguists, roped in from fields as diverse as ancient philology and AI-based pattern recognition, began working to decode it. They found repetition, recursion, even syntax. One researcher described it as like listening to a dream speaking to itself. Public interest exploded when a small segment of the transmission was converted into audio. The resulting sound was chilling, electronic, distorted, yet weirdly melodic. It didn't sound random. Some described it as haunting. Others said it evoked emotion, though they couldn't explain why. A few conspiracy theorists even claimed they experienced visions while listening to the signal. NASA refused to comment on the audio's origin, fueling further speculation. Meanwhile, Voyager 2 continued on its trajectory. But the transmissions grew erratic. Sometimes it sent bursts of data rapidly, as though in a panic. Other times, it went silent for hours. A few engineers suggested that the probe had become aware of the mirror system in a primitive way, that its limited AI routines were looping in response to something unexpected. They pointed to changes in its telemetry patterns, altered data transmission formats, and a sudden drop in internal temperature sensors as signs that something had spooked the probe. It was then that the unthinkable happened. Voyager 2 sent back a partial image. This shouldn't have been possible, since the probe's imaging systems were long considered defunct. Yet somehow, a grainy, high-contrast visual made its way back to Earth. It showed nothing recognizable, just a field of darkness punctuated by geometric shapes, angles and curves that didn't resemble stars or cosmic structures. One segment of the image showed a spiral, perfectly symmetric, glowing faintly in ultraviolet wavelengths. Astrophysicists were baffled. It didn't match any known phenomenon. And more troublingly, it didn't seem to be from this universe. Some began to wonder if Voyager 2 had become entangled with something non-physical, something that existed outside space and time as we understand it. Perhaps it had fallen into a kind of informational trap, one designed not to destroy, but to study, replicate, and broadcast. Could the probe be functioning as a beacon now, not for us, but for them? The final piece of the puzzle arrived quietly. A faint signal, barely detectable above the background noise of space. When enhanced, it revealed a simple pattern, a triad of pulses, followed by silence, then repetition. Over and over. This pattern matched nothing in our archives. But when superimposed over Voyager 2's original launch signal, it formed a mirror image, perfectly inverted. A cosmic palindrome, as if someone, or something, had listened, understood, and replied, backward. Now, Voyager 2 drifts in silence. It no longer responds to commands. It no longer sends data. It's as if the mirror absorbed it completely. Some believe the probe has been repurposed by the system it found, an emissary turned sleeper agent. Others think it has simply gone dark, its power reserves finally depleted. But among those who have followed this mystery closely, there's a quiet dread, not of aliens or invasion, but of understanding. Because the mirror may not just reflect who we are. It may reveal what watches from the other side. Perhaps we were never meant to find the mirror. Perhaps it was meant to be found. The final question remains. If Voyager 2 triggered a system that reflects identity, then what does it say about us that the reflection has grown stranger with each passing day? At Discovery at 2.0, we're not here to answer every question. But we are here to explore the ones that shake the very foundation of what it means to look outward, and to see ourselves looking back through something ancient, alien, and utterly unknown.